Hello there. Once again, it is time to take another revealing peek back into history.
What famous date shall I set it to today?
Once again, it's time for Throwback Thursday. A second chance to look at some truly awful podcasts. No, wait. A second chance to see how far Vicis Interimo has come over the last 8 years. New episodes will be released pretty much weekly, but Thursdays I've reserved for throwbacks to see how far we've come. A lot of the information on here no longer applies, whether that be businesses or links that may not work anymore, so be advised of that. But again, I want to thank the patrons that we have at this time, though they may not have been here the first time these episodes were recorded. I am thanking them again because they're helping us move forward with our new episodes. And those are patrons such as @Lonely Bob, Big Al V, and Goldafish. In the meantime, I hope that you enjoy what you hear.
Welcome to Vicis Interimo, 30 Minutes to Kill. I'm your host, Michael Mad Saxon Jones, and my lovely wife, Lori, is here. Say hi, Lori.
Hi.
This is episode number 42. Today's movie review is the movie Dreamcatcher. First, though, we're going to have a brief Laid to Rest segment where we'll wrap up any notes regarding last week's show. Next, we'll cover the movie, and then we'll finish up with Garbage In, Garbage Out, where we cover what we may have seen or read over the last week. So, without further ado, let's just get right into Laid to Rest. One thing that I did want to cover was we got a little off track, I think, when it came to discussing Code 46 last week.
Yes, I agree.
Okay. So the main story in Code 46 is an investigator that's hired by the Sphinx Corporation to come in and find who's printing false documents. And it turns out that Tim Robbins' character falls in love with the counterfeiter.
Yes.
Okay, so that really cut through it, and that's what the main story was about.
Yes.
Anything to cover regarding Chud?
Oh, I don't think so.
I think we summed all of that up
yeah.
Summed it all pretty well.
I don't think I have much more to say about that one.
Okay. Well, then let's move on to our review of Dreamcatcher. And if you hate this movie, I'm not going to try to convince you that it was a good movie, but I do think we have a few things to talk about there and maybe kind of clarify a few things. But anyhow, stay tuned for that.
Here's the Duddits. Our Dreamcatcher. Wish he was here.
A circle of friendship.
To the Duds.
To Douglas Cavell.
To Duddits.
A web of mystery.
Jonesy,
Yeah, Big?
you be careful.
Be careful of what?
A pattern of fear.
And where are they all going?
It's not where they're going that worries me. It's what are they running away from?
Form the design of an alien invasion.
I've quarantined the entire area. Nothing leaves alive.
I'll tell you what you should be worried about. A hitchhiker. That's been our greatest fear. Somebody who could pass for one of us.
You're not Jonesy.
These are Americans. The idea of slaughtering Americans just turns my stomach.
slip through.
What do you want?
Come with me, Owen. I'll show you things you wish you'd never seen.
Okay, like I said, today's movie is Dreamcatcher. What did you think about the movie, Lori?
Ooh, yeah, I didn't like it.
Okay, tell me where it went wrong for you.
Everywhere. It didn't make a lot of sense. Kind of went everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
It had the feeling of a certain kind of movie in the beginning, and then it kind of shifted and turned into another movie, and it was confusing as to what was going on.
Okay.
I think it just, in a nutshell, that's my gripes with it. I think there was some good elements. There were some things I liked, but I think I would have rather seen it as a longer miniseries with more explanation.
Okay. Well, I'm going to try to give you a little bit of an explanation. I'm going to try not to go too much into the book, since we are supposed to be reviewing the movie, but there are a few things that I do think that need to be covered.
Because most people, I've not met anybody that has liked this movie. Everyone is like, ugh.
Yeah, that's true.
Horrible. Don't waste your time.
I was actually going to comment on the fact that there is not much love for this movie. When I put out there on Facebook that we were going to do this, Kyle came on and said, "Don't go there. The movie was bad." So I explained that we were going to do it because we were going to cover it in the podcast.
So we were committed already.
His complaint was the CGI sucked, the acting was good, but the book was okay, but the movie was bad, basically. And Brian,
well, the acting was good.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Brian came on and said it's not far from the book, other than the ending, and that's what really messed it up. So those were just a couple of people that commented on it. My sister-in-law Lisa, she said it sucked, if I remember correctly. And
hey, she remembered correctly.
Well, there's some redeeming features in there, but again, like I said, I'm not going to try to convince anybody this is a good movie. Gonzo from Horophilia came on and said that he didn't know what Stephen King thought when he wrote this, that it was pure garbage, and that he loves the military. Well, I'm going to have to disagree on a couple of points. First of all, nothing wrong with loving the military. But I'm going to say that if you actually go into Stephen King's writings, you find that he really doesn't necessarily love the military. Gonzo goes on to say that they always show up in his movies. 9 times out of 10, they're the protagonist, or the antagonist rather, and are incompetent and out to screw things up. Look
at The Mist.
Exactly. Yes, definitely. The Mist, Firestarter. That was a program set up, and The Shop is one of those faceless nemesis that are out there that are often, after the heroes in there. So yeah, I don't really think that he loves the military all that much.
He loves to make fun of them. Yeah,
I think so. And Jason said that the book may have been good, but the movie wasn't. Well, I'm not even sure how I felt about the book, but anyhow, those are the comments that folks were making. Let's address some of those there.
Well, and I just to interject really quick here, me having never read the book, the movie was really bad for me. I think if you've read the book and you know the story fairly well, you can, you understood probably a little more what was going on. I think the people who've read the book and are familiar with the story maybe weren't as lost as I felt.
Well,
so maybe it seems like people who read the book like it a little more than those of us that went in cold and were like, what is going on here?
Well, I don't know that that's necessarily true. I mean, I agree with what you're saying. The thing that seems to be the sticking point is the big change at the end.
Right. Well, yeah, I just meant in kind of a general way. It's like, well, it was handled pretty well. It kind of follows the story. It follows the book. Well, I don't know that because I've never read the book, and I feel a lot of details were missing that maybe should have been cleared up for those of us that just went in. It's like, I hate to say it, it's like Harry Potter, and I only hate to say it because I'm a Harry Potter lover. I love the books. I love the movies. But I do know a lot of people who are huge fans of the movies, never read the books. And every now and then they'll say, oh, I saw the new movie. Yeah, it was really good, but, this was a little fuzzy or that kind of, I didn't like this part. And they're always complaining about parts that I know what was going on because I've read the book.
Right.
They just have seen the movies and you're missing a lot. So I feel like I was missing a lot in this movie.
Yeah. I definitely think that's correct. And
it's not going to make me run out and read the book, though.
No, I wouldn't necessarily suggest that because even when I did read this book myself, it wasn't my favorite story of King's. There's a lot of other ones that I like. This actually marks the third film that William Goldman adapted from Stephen King, and the other ones that he did were Misery, which he did a great job on.
Yes.
And then Hearts in Atlantis. And I'll get to why Hearts in Atlantis and Dreamcatcher didn't work. But first, I want to say this brings up an interesting point as far as I'm concerned, which is when a book, when a movie tries to follow the book too closely. My complaint often in watching a movie is, oh, it's not like in the book or whatever. I mean, I still enjoy the movies and I try not to complain about it too much, but you know what I mean? I think we've all at one point or another, like you said, even with Harry Potter or any number of other movies, we've said that, well, they didn't capture what was in the book. They didn't, follow the story too closely. This is an example where they followed it too closely, but because they had to cut things out and to leave things out,
yes,
it really suffered. I think it would have been better either as an adaptation, a more loose adaptation,
yeah,
or like you said, as a miniseries, something like The Stand or whatever, where it went over 3-4 nights.
Yeah, I think it would have been great as a half-hour short. Take all of the strongest elements and just do kind of a fun, a half-hour short. Because I love all those shows, those series. There's none of them on anymore, but well, dang, Night Gallery, geez. And what's the Henry Rollins, what's it called? Night Visions.
Night Visions.
Like all of those quick little, I've seen a lot of really big stories condensed into a quick little half-hour cool story. I would like to see this maybe as that. Maybe that would be impossible. So that's why I said this as a extended miniseries, maybe over like 4 nights or something really detailed more closely with the book.
Mm-hmm.
Because, yeah, it was too much, and it was too long of a movie. So even with, it was over 2 hours long, and even with that much time put into it, it still wasn't enough to hit all the explanations.
Right.
For me, anyway, I just, it's like one scene after another, you're just going, what?
Well,
what is that all about? I don't get it.
Here's one thing in particular that a lot of people were confused on, and they didn't make it clear at all in the movie. And that's the aliens. First of all, you're treated to a movie where you don't know what's going on. If you haven't read the book, especially, you know that these guys. Well, you know what? We haven't even covered what the movie was about.
Let's go back.
Let's go back and do a synopsis of what.
We're gonna get complaints again.
Yeah.
You guys don't talk about what the movies are about.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, sorry. Okay, got a synopsis for us?
I don't.
All right. I'll read it then.
Okay.
4 boyhood pals perform a heroic act and are changed by the powers they gain in return. Years later, on a hunting trip in the Maine woods, they're overtaken by a vicious blizzard that harbors an ominous presence. Challenged to stop an alien force, the friends must first prevent the slaughter of innocent civilians by a military vigilante, and then overcome a threat to the bond that unites the 4 of them. What? And that doesn't sound anything like the movie.
It sure doesn't.
And now I just have to say really quick here. I read this off of Netflix.
And who was the author? Does it say?
No, this is just the generic. This is what's always on the back of the Netflix. It's just the Netflix synopsis.
Okay.
I don't know. It's always just a generic. I don't know who writes these.
Okay.
Sometimes they come right off the back of the box. But anyway, I found it interesting because overall, out of 598,367 ratings on Netflix. It says 3.2 stars. And I think that's kind of high out of 5, because that's out of 5. That's not bad. That's on its way to almost 4 stars. So it's interesting. I'm seeing here the top reviews. They always post the top reviews for the ones that people like the most. The very top reviews on here that everybody bumped to the top because they felt they were the most informative. These people gave it 1 star each. And then all of a sudden it moves into people who love it. 5 stars. Oh my gosh, 5 stars.
Okay.
This person felt that the first half of the movie was kind of dull, which is funny because I don't know. Then they said, but once it started explaining a few things and the action picked up, I thought it was great. A really good story, and they recommend you watch it. So that's really interesting. That's why I love reading reviews, because people are so different.
Absolutely. And these that we're sharing are just opinions when it comes down to it.
Yes, absolutely. So, yeah, I just found it interesting that overall it was rated kind of okay out of whatever I said, over 500,000 ratings, and it's 3.2 stars is the average. That's amazing to me.
Well, I think watching it upon later viewings, after my initial dislike of the movie, though I went on to own it, go figure,
You own this?
see things. Yeah, we bought this. I bought this some time ago.
Oh, I was going to say, I didn't have anything to do with that.
Okay, well, I won't blame you for it then. But
I remember when we bought it when we lived up north.
Yeah.
I remember now. Yes.
So there are some things in there that are, there's some poor CGI and so on, but I'll tell you what, let me get back to the one thing that seems to be a sticking point, at least for me, and that's the explanation. I'm going to read a explanation from the complete Stephen King universe, and it describes what the Ripley virus is. The Army's name for an alien virus named for Sigourney Weaver's character in the various Alien movies and for Ripley's Believe It or Not. Described as a sort of interstellar kudzu, the virus takes several forms. The virus is carried by humanoid vessels the Army refers to as Greys, alien beings resembling the little gray creatures featured in the classic movie Close Encounters of the Third Kind. These are essentially organic delivery systems. Humans infected by contact with the Greys are said to suffer from Ripley Prime. Under certain circumstances, Ripley Prime can cause a parasitic egg-laying weasel, a creature resembling a furry lamprey with the mouth containing a nest of teeth, to gestate within the host. Another?
I'm sorry, just very quickly. They were calling them weasels, but you just described it as being furry, which makes more sense.
Right.
In the movie, they just look like a big fleshy worm.
Yeah.
I was like, weasel? I don't get it. Why are we calling that a weasel? But, okay.
Okay.
Thank you for clearing that up.
No problem. I've got a little bit more for you.
Good, because this is way more interesting than the movie.
Okay.
Because I love my sci-fi, and I love a good story. And what you're talking about, I'm like, yeah, okay, that sounds really cool.
Okay. Another less lethal manifestation of the virus is called virus. This manifestation takes the form of a red-yellow growth that quickly spreads across everything it is exposed to. The growth or virus, as the aliens refer to it, has proven successful in taking over other planets. It does not thrive well on Earth, however. It is susceptible to extreme cold. In all previous cases of alien attack, the threat has been eliminated by the military so quickly that the virus has never had a chance to adapt or mutate. The aliens seek a better vessel to carry out their invasion. Gary Jones, who is one of the characters in the story, has somehow been forever changed by a car accident, proves to be this vessel. Yeah, like you said, you don't necessarily get all that in the movie at all.
You don't get it at all. Because everything that you just read, I would have liked to know that before I stepped into this movie.
Right.
Because they don't tell you any of that. You're confused as to what's what. I mean, they talk about the weasels and only kind of briefly, and they talk about the people that look like they have the rashes on their face and how sometimes it clears up, sometimes it doesn't. You know, you see the one room where the red, I don't know what you just called, virus, I guess you called it. Looks like a red fungus-y stuff growing all over, which was kind of reminiscent of the War of the Worlds movie. But there's all these different things, and then you see the Greys, as they called them, out by their ship, but that's not really what they are, and they're morphing, and there's just a lot going on. Right. But the way you just put it, that makes a lot of sense.
Right.
And I would have maybe enjoyed the movie more having that information.
Absolutely. And that was something, even when I read the book, that it was kind of a new thought to me and presented in a little bit different way as far as what the alien invasion was. Again, the alien is the virus itself, the kudzu, the red spores. That is all the alien presence. The fact that it can turn itself into things, mutate into things, that's all one thing, whether it be the weasels, whether it be the gray, or whether it be the stuff growing on that is all one entity that's mutated, and that's lost. I think that's a kind of a cool idea, but they didn't explore that enough in the movie or clarify that to let you know, because really when you see the gray that explodes, his head just kind of blows up in there, you know, you're wondering what in the world is going on.
Yeah.
So
it could have even used that's why movies have those little opening paragraphs, because even our movie we watched, not Chud, but the other movie, the Code 46, it had, you know, sometimes the movie starts and a couple paragraphs float by and it's annoying, you have to pause it and try to read it, but that's there for a reason. There's always valuable information in there, you know what's going on.
Right.
So this movie could have really used something like that. Just a little bit of insight or something. Give us something.
Right.
Because that was just crazy otherwise.
Right. I was going to say really quickly, as far as Stephen King goes, this idea, I did a little bit more research on it, and I was going to say we've seen other things where viruses have taken over. I think of the Lonely Death of Jordy Verrill from the Creep Show. Similar to this, where, you know, this thing comes out of the meteorite and turns to the grass. And now this was kind of a green grass or whatever, but it was reminiscent of that, or another short story called Gray Matter. If you're familiar with that one, a kid runs into the local store and explains that his father has drunk something in a beer can that has left him becoming this giant mass, this gray fungus type thing. So anyhow, it's a sort of a familiar thing.
Now I have to ask you though, how did it get in the beer can?
There was a small pinhole beer in the thing, so.
Okay, a virus.
We'll talk more about that later. Anyhow, we're supposed to be talking about Dreamcatcher.
So what did you think? Now, story aside, the actors were all very good.
Absolutely. A lot of people that we've gone on to see in other things that I think were great actors. Obviously, Morgan Freeman's good in everything.
Yes.
Jason Lee, you know, My Name is Earl. Timothy Oliphant, you know,
I really
Deadwood.
enjoyed him in it. The one that you said played, that was in My Name is Earl.
Yeah, absolutely. And who else was in there? Timothy Oliphant, Damon Lewis. There are so many different people that we enjoyed seeing. That was actually, did you know Duddits was Donnie Wahlberg?
I knew that just from seeing it in the credits, and I remember making a note of that last time.
Okay, I had no idea. And that's another thing that in your synopsis they completely missed, that Duddits is actually the character that is the Dreamcatcher. In the initial story, he was somebody that suffered from Down syndrome. I'm going to go ahead and say, you know, from here on out, there's going to be spoilers, because we need to talk about that ending that was changed and how much that affected the movie. Really quickly, though, before we go on to that, what do you think about the gore? Was it gory enough to be a horror movie?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, it wasn't really gore. It was just disgusting.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was kind of over the top. So, yeah.
So that made it qualify for that. And
At risk of, I didn't care for the bathroom scene.
Right.
But yeah, didn't care for that because it's for those who, a lot of people may never bother to see the movie, but these so-called weasels that we were talking about, it's a little parasite that gets in your body and incubates, and it's got to come out sometime. It grows very large in your body, and then it makes its escape. So you can use your imagination there. But it was kind of graphic.
Very. I was going to say, you don't have to use your imagination if you watch the movie, because...
No.
Yeah.
But, and I was happy to find, because at first you're like, what? Because when they break into the bathroom to see how the guy's doing, the walls are all red, and I was very disturbed, but that's actually the virus is already starting to grow in there.
Right.
Because it's taking over the house. So I was like, oh, thank goodness that's not blood. You know? The whole thing was just very disturbing and
definitely
kind of gross. It's kind of just a factor, you know. I'm not sure that needed to be in there so heavily, but I guess it is a rated R horror movie, though. So
definitely. And Stephen King has always said that if he can't actually scare you to death, he'll settle for the gross out.
Oh, well, he did a good job then. Because it wasn't that scary of a movie, kind of, you know. Well, you didn't even really know what was going on, so it's hard to be scared of what you don't understand.
Like you said, there's another problem with this movie is it almost seems to shift gears and become an action-adventure, shoot-'em-up type movie after a certain point.
Well, and that's what I wanted to... It starts out... I had written in my notes here that it had, you know, these 4 friends. They go out, they're laughing, enjoying each other's company. They're lifelong friends. They knew each other from their childhood. There's a couple flashback sequences that I really enjoyed. I enjoyed the interaction of these 4 friends, and I liked the flashback sequences. It had that kind of Stand By Me or It feel.
Absolutely.
Where it you know, the kids and the, you know, Derry, Maine, of course, where else? Yeah, it had that same feeling of the flashbacks from the movie It or whatever. But so I liked those, but there was only a couple of those. And then the way that the movie shifts, though, and unfortunately, the synopsis I read made it sound like these 4 guys are doing battle with these evil forces of whatever, but they actually aren't all in it for very long, as far as I'm concerned. I would have liked them to be in it more.
Right.
I mean, I don't know. You said spoiler alert. I don't know how much you want to give away, but obviously they don't all make it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We won't say who and stuff, but you're right.
But unfortunately, the characters that I enjoyed the most, they're the ones that bite the dust first. I was like, oh man, he didn't last long? What?
That is unfortunate, yes.
So, yeah, so the things that I found entertaining about it were kind of short-lived, and then it just sort of turns into this military, crazy, you know, it's a totally different movie. It has a totally different feel.
Right.
To me. I don't know.
I think I absolutely agree with you wholeheartedly there. Because what you don't get is you don't get the Tom Sizemore's character, Owen, being a military guy, going up against Morgan Freeman's character, which is Colonel Abraham Curtis, rather. Kurtz is what he was named in the book, and he was named that after the character in Heart of Darkness or Apocalypse Now.
Okay.
And you find out that this guy has just changed his names because he likes the sinister implications, but they were worried about that being a problem as far as copyright goes, so they changed the name of the character in the movie. But yeah, there's a whole byplay there as far as what's going on, where Morgan Freeman's character is crazy.
Yeah, and you know, and it was this weird when the movie shifted to the military and Morgan Freeman comes out, it felt like that's the point where it felt like a totally different movie.
Yeah.
It just, all of a sudden, it seemed like, what's he doing in this movie? It was like, okay, it's an action film, or it's a more, you know, it kind of lost the whole feeling that it created in the first, I don't know how far in it was. But,
well, we'll say the first half or the first portion of the movie where it's the 4 friends going out.
Yes.
Because we see that even though they are lifelong friends, they've all kind of gone off and are living their own lives and aren't necessarily doing well, but they all try to get together at least once a year to go to this place called Hole in the Wall, which is where they go out and they get caught with a storm.
Yeah.
And like I said, during that time, you have no idea that this alien invasion is going on.
Yeah. And that again is where it really felt like the movie It for me. And I love the whole first portion of It. I won't talk about that final scene.
We'll save that for
those
another.
couple of final scenes.
We'll save that for another time.
But you know what I mean? Just the feel of it.
Here's
the guys in there. Yeah.
I'm sorry. Here's another. It's almost virtually off topic, and I shouldn't be going there now, but I'm going to tell you anyhow.
Go there.
We've been talking about Haven, the TV show Haven.
Yes.
Doing a little bit more research, going through Stephen King's works and so on. The town Haven is mentioned. I won't say prominently throughout his work, but it does appear there. And if you are curious or just as a note of interest, Pennywise has moved to Haven. I don't know if they're going to cover that in the series or the story, but you do find out after It, they think they vanquish him. Whatever it is, Pennywise, is seen in the sewers of Haven. So there's a little tidbit for people that maybe you don't even care about. Whatever. Anyhow, back to the movie. What kind of a score would you give this movie?
Oh.
Is there anything worth it for you in there?
That's kind of hard to say.
Well, feel free to say no then.
No.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't think I would recommend it. I mean, if only just for the curiosity to see what we're talking about. Those are the only people that I could recommend it to.
Okay.
If
forewarned.
Or I would like people who've read the book and enjoyed it, or read the story and liked it. I would like them to see it.
Yeah.
I would recommend it to them so that they could see what they think. But yeah, overall, my sister and her family saw it or whoever, and they were like, what? The movie's lame, or it's kind of crappy.
Okay. Well, if you were going to score it, what would you give it?
I don't know. Probably just a 2 or 3.
Okay.
Maybe a 3. There were... I'd written down that I liked the snow scenes.
Mm-hmm.
I liked the scene with the animals running through. That was really well done. There was some really good shots in there. I enjoyed the 4 friends, the interaction, the flashbacks. I don't know his name again. My name is Earl.
Jason Lee.
He was so entertaining in there.
I thought he would be off-putting for you.
No.
Okay.
Because he had a filthy mouth.
He had a filthy mouth.
It was done in a funny way, though.
I was just going to say.
He wasn't hurting anybody.
That was his point. That was the point, actually, when Stephen King wrote that and stuff. He was supposed to be a little foul-mouthed little kid that grew up to be a foul-mouthed adult.
Yeah, well,
but he was entertaining.
He was still using the same phrases he was using when he was an 8-year-old kid or whatever.
Absolutely, yeah.
But he didn't have a mean bone in his body. None of these guys did. They were all likable.
Yes, absolutely. And that's kind of the... Well, I don't know what to say. That's kind of the heartbreaking part of the story, or that's kind of that was not captured, basically. Between the book and the movie, that wasn't captured at all, I don't think. And like I said, a
little bit, because I haven't read the book, and I saw that a little bit.
Okay.
I could see their personalities. The one character, Henry, that they were calling H, he had a little rough start in the beginning of the movie. You wondered, wow, what kind of jerk is this?
Right.
But, I mean, he made good, and he did wrong. But the other characters, they were, when this sick man, they find him out in the woods, they bring him back, they bring him in, and they feed him, and they weren't like, ew. Usually in a movie, horror movies these days, some person that's all sick or something looks like it's wrong with them, everyone's repulsed or repelled, or we don't want this person around us, but they were welcoming to him and took care of him and, tucked him into their bed. And I mean, who would do that? I mean, some people out there would, absolutely, but you wouldn't think these 4 guys, they're all cussing and drinking, but they were good people.
Yeah.
And that's something that I liked about. So you know what? I'll bump it up definitely to at least a 3.
Okay.
Because those are the things that I liked about, but it was all lost early on.
Right.
And I didn't understand what the heck was going on anyway. So I love a story. And for me, the story wasn't there. I couldn't figure out what the story was.
Okay. I'm going to go with, again, it's hard since I own the movie. I'm gonna say, I'm gonna give it a 4.
Why is it that you own the movie?
Because there are things because I have read the book. The 4 is for anybody that hasn't seen the movie before. 4 is the recommendation for if you've read and are a big fan of Stephen King. It's maybe worth more of a look. But yeah, I'm going to say a 4. So we'll just leave it at that. And at this point, I haven't even covered the one thing that was really, it had a tie into the Dark Tower suddenly. And here's the big spoiler. So if you're interested, don't, skip this next section. But Duddits being a space alien, that just comes out of nowhere and is absolutely ridiculous. Because how does his mom not know that he was, you know what I mean? It must have.
Maybe she did know. They didn't explain it.
Well, because it wasn't in the book.
She said, go save the world. What made her think he could go save the world unless she knew something?
Yeah, that was something that was just lost from the book and stuff because he wasn't a space alien like I said.
There was a lot of things that were lost. I was really lost, actually.
Yeah. So anyhow, I guess.
And I'm not stupid usually. I can figure things out. That's what this movie just had me going, what?
Yeah.
I can usually at least infer what's going on and make some connections but I don't know.
Yeah.
I know I was tired, but I couldn't have been that tired. It was confusing.
Yeah. Well, I guess that's probably enough about that movie. Anybody has any comments? Of course, you can make comments on Vicis Interimo on Facebook. You can put it on my personal account either. Also, S. Michael Jones on Facebook. 3 other places you can find us. You can find us at lapodcasters.com. You can find us at pennycult.com. Or you can find us on hillbillyads.com. And if you look under Hillbilly Radio, you can find us there. As always, you can email me at madsaxon, that's 2 X's, MADSAXXON, at yahoo.com. Anything final on the movie?
Those weasels looked an awful lot like the tentacles off the Mist.
Good point.
Yes. That's it.
Okay.
I'm done. Yeah.
Garbage in, garbage out. What have you got for us, Lori, there? Have you been watching anything? Not really. Studying hard, right?
Oh, man. Yeah, I've had my nose in a book all week.
Yeah.
In 4 different books, actually.
And I actually pulled you out pretty much only to watch Magnolia.
Yes. We watched Magnolia.
Any comments about that?
I should just read what I wrote on Facebook, because it's kind of complicated.
Okay.
In general, I don't care for it.
Uh-huh.
It's not really, I don't really care for that style so much that, jumping around and viewing people's little clips of people's lives and stuff.
Uh-huh.
I know you enjoy how they all sort of come together, and that's kind of cool, but, yeah, I don't know.
Okay. Well,
There's so much more than that. I could talk probably for an hour on it.
Okay, well, we won't do that, but
yeah.
I'm a fan of Magnolia. Jason from Horophilia says he feels it's one of the most overrated movies. And I can understand people's complaint with it. For me, it's a great movie, and I'm not going to try to push that off on anybody as saying that you should also think that it's a great movie.
Well, that's the thing. He said it. That totally is the point right there. It was so overrated. Because the people who first of all, it won every Academy Award that exists on the planet. It was people fawned over it so much and went crazy, and a few people that I know saw it, went crazy for it, and oh my gosh, it's the most wonderful. So by the time I sat down and watched it, I was like, what? Really? So it kind of got ruined. It's one of those movies that it was hard for me to give it a chance because it was built up into this most greatest, wonderful thing you'll ever see in your life.
Mm-hmm.
And then it was just so not.
Okay. Well, for me, I had enough personal experiences that either paralleled or allowed me to empathize with the characters, all the characters.
Yeah.
And so it worked for me. But that's one of the things we watched. I feel bad actually making you watch these and stuff, knowing you don't like them and knowing that you didn't care for Dreamcatcher.
Yeah,
this
you
week.
did it to me twice this week.
I did.
You know what, though? I wanted to watch them both because I remembered not liking either, and I had to find out why.
Okay.
Because if I watch a movie one time and I don't care for it, my brain throws it out.
Gotcha.
I can't even tell you what. Sometimes I have a feeling of what it was I didn't like about it.
Mm.
But yeah, I wanted to give them both another chance. I definitely wanted to give Magnolia another chance.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and there's things to appreciate. I mean, it's definitely a character study. It's a so-called mood piece. People and their problems. And yeah, some of these people, you really feel for them. The majority of them, they're just kind of nasty, awful people and you don't care, which sounds terrible. By the end, you get to see the problems they'd been through and you understand why they act the way they do.
Right.
So yeah, if you can get to the end, I think it'll be okay.
Yeah.
But a lot of people, and I think, I saw it once all the way through around the time it came out. And then I tried to watch it again and I couldn't get through the first probably hour. So it's really hard. Feels long and it's difficult and you're wondering what the point of this movie is. It's just hard getting there. If you can sit through the whole entire thing, and I would recommend that people do, watch it and get to the very end and see what you think. Cause yeah, you either love it or you hate it and you never know. You might absolutely love it. So, I mean, I would still recommend it.
Okay.
It's rated R. It has an awful lot of F words flying in every single scene. So if that kind of thing is offensive or bothers you, it's right off the bat. You'll be popping it back out in 10 minutes. You know? So, but yeah, if you can sit through the whole thing and get to the very end, I mean, there's definitely things to appreciate about it.
Okay.
I see why you like it. It's okay.
Well, and again, that's the other thing. Nobody else has to appreciate it. I appreciate it, and that's enough for me. What else I've been watching that I enjoy is The Venture Brothers. That stupid show, I mean, way back, years back, a friend of mine, Kurt, told me I needed to watch this because he thought I would enjoy it. And I hadn't been watching it. I mean, I'd catch an episode every now and then, but I never made a point to see it. Whatever reason, I managed to catch the second season, whatever, as they were rerunning it on Adult Swim. And that thing is just hilarious. I'm going to have to go back and see all of them. A little bit too much on the pedophile front there with Sergeant Hatred. But other than that, there's such obscure references in there that I get that are just drives me to the floor just laughing. It's great stuff. Anyhow, I'm talking about everything I'm watching. Are you watching anything? Have you seen anything that you wanted to talk about as far as garbage in, garbage out?
I don't think so.
Okay. Well, do you have a best ever for us?
Uh-oh. No.
Okay, I don't have a best ever either. Instead, Magnolia had got me thinking. I'm looking for two movies that defined a decade for you. That sounds abstract. Let me clarify that a little bit more. Two movies, doesn't have to be horror movies, doesn't have to be anything in particular, but two movies that you can think back that really touched you or affected you or were movies that mattered for some way for each decade since you got out of high school. Can you think of any? I know that's short notice to give you.
I was going to say, I have to tell you right now?
No, give me something next week.
Oh, okay.
Okay, I'm going to say right now for me, for the 80s, it's Highlander and Blade Runner. Those are the two movies that that affected me for whatever reason.
You're so predictable.
Oh, well, whatever.
Well, no, I know those are your favorite movies.
Well, and I was going to say, and you've heard me ask this question before probably, haven't you? No?
No.
Okay, well, anyhow. So, yeah, there's your homework. Anybody wants to throw those on the on the forum there or on the Vicis Interimo page. Let me know what your 2 movies were for the year you graduated high school, for that decade, rather.
Wow.
Yeah.
You know what movie I love that was around that time?
Okay.
Empire of the Sun.
Okay.
That's such an awesome movie.
Now you got to give me one more. You can't leave me hanging.
Oh, well, wasn't it supposed to be 2 movies
Yes.
that define your decade?
Yeah.
I don't know if I'd. That was my favorite movie for a lot of years.
Yeah.
A lot of years, and people always thought that was weird because I'm such the sci-fi and fantasy.
Well, any category, anything. So.
But yeah, that was that just blew everything else away for me.
Well, give me another one next week then.
Okay.
Okay. And we'll just cut it there.
Okay. I was going to say, it's not the best ever. My statistics class.
Yeah, we knew that from last week. All right.
Well, you mentioned it, but it was actually, I had a worst ever, and that was my worst first week of school ever. But yeah, and stats is the worst class ever. So I'm just going to keep having worst evers week after week as long as I'm in school, apparently.
All righty. Well, I'm going to have to chop this down. We went
Please
for
do.
47 minutes, but